Songs of Blood and Sword tells the story of a family of feudal landlords who became power broker. It is an epic tale of intrigue, the making of modern Pakistan, and ultimately tragedy. The author mainly describes the murder of her father, Murtaza Bhutto, in a police encounter outside their home in Karachi when her aunt Benazir Bhutto was sitting Prime Minister. The author was 14 when her father Murtaza, brother of Pakistan's then Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, was killed. Before she was born, her grandfather Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who ruled the country in the 70s, was executed by the military regime that disposed him. And Murtaza's death was preceded by her uncle Shanawaz's poisoning and followed by the assassination of Benazir, once a beloved aunt, but by then long estranged, 4 years ago. So, this mesmerizing book often has the feel of detective inquiry into the events of tragedy in which a dynasty is eliminated. In September 1996, a 14-year-old Fatima Bhutto hid in a windowless dressing room, shielding her baby brother while shots rang out in the streets outside the family home in Karachi. This was the evening that her father Murtaza was murdered, along with 6 of his associates. In December 2007, Benazir Bhutto, Fatma's aunt, and the woman she had publicly accused of ordering her father's murder was assassinated in Rawalpindi. It was the latest in a long line of tragedies for one of the world's best political dynasties. Songs of Blood and Sword tells the story of a family of rich feudal landlord, the proud descendants of a warrior caste who became power brokers in the newly created state of Pakistan. It is an epic tale full of the romance and legend of feudal life, the glamour and license of the international political elite, and ultimately the tragedy of 4 generations of a family defined by a political idealism that would destroy them. The history of this extraordinary family mirrors the events of Pakistan itself, and the quest to find the truth behind her father's murder has led Fatma to the heart of her country's volatile political establishment. It is the history of a nation from partition through the struggle when India over Kashmir, the Cold War, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan up to post 9/11 war on terror. It is also a book about a daughter's love for her father and her search to uncover and to understand the truth of his life and death. It is a book about a family and a nation riven by murder, corruption, conspiracy, and division, written by one who has lived it in the heart of a storm. Songs of Blood and Sword is a book international significance by a young woman who has already established herself as a brave and a passionate campaigner. The book is an attack on Zardari, whom Fatma blames for everything wrong with Pakistan today. And that is the problem with the book. Fatma fails to see anything wrong with the Bhuttos. They are presented as martyrs who died for Pakistan. The fact that all of them died in either pursuit of power or during internal power struggles has been ignored by the writer. With their feudal, arrogant attitude, the Bhuttos have been part of the problem and not the solution. But the writer fails to address the issue. Controversy regarding the book created an angry reaction in Pakistan. Critics and several relatives accuse Fatma of twisting history to make unverified allegations that give a negative impression to the memory of Benazir Bhutto, the country's only female prime minister. In the book, Fatma has suggested that Benazir also played a role in another family murder, the poisoning of her brother Shanawaz in the south of France in 1985. Benazir's sister and Fatma's aunt Sanam Bhutto published an article in Dawn accusing Fatima of disputing history and calling the book an assault on her family, on reality, and above all on the truth. Fatma was not witness to any of the central political events described in the book, so most of the detailed narrative is second-hand, recovered from Murtaza's friends and colleagues. Murtaza fled Pakistan in 1977 after the Zia regime took power and did not return until 1993. This prolonged absence gave Benazir a free hand in Pakistan, allowing her a clear run at the leadership of Zulfikar Ali political creation, the Pakistan People's Party. Fatima Bhutto loved her aunt as a child, but slowly a distance opened up between them as ambition grew into Benazir's mind. Fatima identifies two key decisions that set the course of Benazir's life. The first was to make peace with the Zia regime in 1986 by agreeing to participate in election. This brought her into the military political establishment from whose grip she could never then escape. The second was her marriage in 1987 to Asif Ali Zardari, playboy of a feudal family. Fatima Bhutto was born in Afghanistan, raised in Syria, and visited Pakistan for the first time when she was 7 years old. She describes her years growing up in Karachi. I used to shiver in the dead of summer's night, begging myself to sleep and praying that I might push past the fear of violence and the specters of the dead that surround me and my city. To live in Pakistan was, and still is, to live in a state of fear. If you were or are a Bhutto, it is even more frightening. The author is presently living in the same home in which she was raised. The majority of her father's friends and political allies believe that Pakistan has essentially become a colonial state of the powerful countries and continues to abide by powerful countries' political wishes, regardless of the effects on their country and people. The author provides a great deal of evidence to support his sentiment. Fatima Bhutto asserts that Pakistan is without a free press or independent judiciary, and there are no safeguards against the violent and vindictive government. The focus of the book, however, is on the life and career of her father, Mir Murtaza Bhutto, a Western educated political exile determined to avenge the death of his father, and whose return to Pakistan in 1993 challenged the regime of his sister Benazir Bhutto, then Prime Minister. Fatima Bhutto, she is tough on her country, a nuclear armed state that cannot run refrigerators, and on its largest city, Karachi, overcrowded, underdeveloped, and poor, with a police force violent and corrupt. For Pakistani politics, foreign power sending billions of dollars to support criminal regimes for its own political and economic advantage, and killing innocent school children in the name of fight against terrorists. This book describes a bleak, disturbing picture of Pakistan. The book is in part also an epic saga of adventure in that many years are spent in exile and international activism, leading them to far-flung places like Kabul, Damascus, Tripoli, Athens, and London to meet with the executives and statements of those countries. The displaced family is many times received as official guests of the president. For his return to Pakistan as an elected representative, President Hafizul Assad of Syria arranged for Murtaza's travel in his personal aircraft and negotiated with the government of those countries over which airspace it would fly. When Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto was arrested, Benazir and Murtaza were both studying at Oxford, while Shahnawaz was studying in Switzerland. Ziaul released Zulfiqar after a few weeks, and Zulfiqar launched a campaign against the military regime, rallying crowds and generating support. Murtaza and Shahnawaz returned to Karachi and helped their father in his campaign. When Zulfiqar was rearrested, the sons, at their father's instruction, fled overseas and started to lobby for Zulfiqar's release, traveling to various countries and meeting many a head of state. Fatima tells us that if the US wanted to, it could have saved Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto. A single word would have been enough. Many years ago, when Zulfiqar was in power, his socialism and non-alignment had egged Henry Kissinger so much that Kissinger had apparently promised to make a horrible example out of Zulfiqar. On April 4, 1979, Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto was hanged on the orders of Ziaul Haq. After Zulfiqar's death, his children reacted in different ways. Benazir and her mother Nusrat Bhutto shuttled between house arrest and jail for a few years. Zulfiqar's son Murtaza and Shahnawaz started to organize resistance against Zia's regime. Apparently, Zulfiqar had commanded his sons to avenge his murder. Fatima tells us that Dala told her that she had read Zulfiqar's last letter to Murtaza: "Go to Afghanistan. Be close to your country. If you don't avenge my murder, you are not my sons." Murtaza and his younger brother Shahnawaz lived in Kabul for many years under the protection of Soviet puppet Najibullah. Later, they moved to Damascus. It was while they lived in Kabul that Murtaza broke off his affair with Dala. Very soon, Murtaza and Shahnawaz got married to Afghan sisters Fauzia and Rihanna. Fauzia is Fatma's mother, but after Murtaza and Fauzia got divorced, Fatima chose to be with her father and even now considers her stepmother, Murtaza's second wife, Ghinwa, to be her mother. Murtaza's resistance movement, Al-Zulfiqar, does not seem to have achieved much, or at least Fatima does not tell us much about any success it may have had. Fatima keeps references to her biological mother Fauzia to a bare minimum. We are told that Fauzia and Rihanna came from a diplomatic family, that Rihanna was a Mujahideen supporter, that Fauzia was pregnant with Fatima when she married Murtaza, and that Najibullah tried to stop the weddings on account of the Mujahideen connection. The brothers had a joint wedding reception as they married the sisters due, dressed in khakis. Murtaza and Fauzia separated when Fatima was only 3. The struggle between Benazir and Murtaza for the Bhutto legacy started when they were both very young. Both siblings were at Harvard and later Oxford at the same time. Benazir was the aloof, haughty and proud one, always conscious of being a Bhutto and wanting her 2 young brothers and young sisters to toe her line. Obviously, Murtaza too wanted to be a Zulfiqar heirs, though Fatima does not spell it out in as many words. In Murtaza's eyes, Benazir was wrong to start participating in the democratic process. something she started doing even before Ziaul died. Fatima remembered the conversation. What do you mean taking part? Papa said, almost shouting. You are willing to be Zia's prime minister? To an outsider, it seems obvious that Benazir did the right thing by taking part in the democratic process rather than fight to oust Ziaul. But Fatima genuinely finds so much wrong with so many of Benazir's action that at times one gets the feeling that Fatima is nitpicking. The death and possible murder of Murtaza's brother Shanawaz. Fatima tells us that she grew up believing Shanawaz's wife Rehana was responsible for Shanawaz's death in France. However, Fatima suggests that now she thinks it is possible Shanawaz was killed at Ziaul's behest.